You know, during these times where people are having to stay indoors more, kids are more isolated from their peer groups, it's more difficult to socialize face to face, there's more of a sense of isolation. And that's a big concern of parents, and something that, you know, that we've been talking about quite a bit.
We talk about how the brain is developed for connection. Right? And in these times, it's that connection that is lost. Where the times of COVID and then the pandemic, we had to separate, you know, and it's difficult to build those connections. So parents are having a lot of stress and anxiety around that.
And a lot of it's coming from their kids.
Yes.
Stress.
Right.
And the anxiety.
Yeah, and how to build some sort of structure or some sort of routine within the home.
I like that you said routine, because I think that sometimes when people think of structure, structure is good. It provides predictability.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest struggles right now is the uncertainty of COVID, the uncertainty of when are we going to get back to normal. And that's driving a lot of the anxiety. And you mentioned a routine.
Right.
And so sometimes I think when parents are asking about this, they're asking for a structure, meaning maybe from this time to this time to this time.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to maybe a more flexible routine that involves rituals.
We often mention what parents do as far as a family night, right? And often one week a night they will have a family night together. Okay, so how can we decrease that anxiety even around our current structure within the home, right? And you talked about that predictability, that's decreasing that anxiety, and now tying it to a family night. You know, I wonder if, you know, and I was also thinking that if we can increase that family night, maybe to 2 or 3 times a week, and having it predictable, to also build that connection and that, you know, that our brains so much want. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we're doing this family night. Maybe we do it more than once. What's the structure within this family activity? If we're like this,
right,
you know, then we're together, but we're not together. We're physically maybe in the same area, but it's just more of the same disconnection. One night in our parent meeting on Zoom, we were talking about how the kids have so much screen time, and parents are wondering, how do I get my kids off their devices? And they're doing this and that. And another parent chimed in and said, that's really my kid's only social connection. He's chatting with people and talking. And so it was a nice discussion of, okay, it's helpful for this kid while it's problematic for these other ones. And it got me to thinking, you know, what's the quality of the screen time?
right.
Is it face-to-face interaction? Is it, in this kid's case, voice-to-voice interaction where you get to know people through playing games? Or is it, you know, Minecraft or I don't know what?
So you're talking about unproductive or productive screen time.
Yeah.
Whereas you playing your PS4 or your Xbox and there's no connection with another brain. Whereas things such as Zoom and Skype and FaceTime, things like that, where you are actually interacting with another brain.
So much of how parents provide the structure, set the limit, has to do with a kid feeling even more distant or disconnected.
Right.
That would be a, hey, get off that thing. You never, you're always on that thing. You're never doing anything. That's a nice way to drive disconnection.
Right.
You and I have been working with these parents and talking about it starts with us.
Right.
How are we promoting connection if we're worried about disconnection?
Exactly. We have to model the behavior. We have to model the mood that we want, especially when we're spending so much time together. More so than just those few hours after school or a few hours after work. So what now is you're almost 24 hours with the kids doing the remote learning and things like that. So the parent's mood can dictate the child's mood.
Oh, absolutely. a parent's responsibility is to set this emotional atmosphere in the home is the parent's responsibility.
Right.
And working with parents and understanding how do you maintain your preferred emotional atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I think if you're worried about your kids feeling isolated, rejected, disconnected, those kinds of things, you've got to work really hard to make your atmosphere one of connection.
Yeah.
Because loneliness, that comes up a lot. These kids are feeling lonely. Loneliness is very subjective. It's a very subjective feeling, and developmentally, where they are, they can blame themselves for this loneliness or not being able to socialize or those kinds of things. And if a parent comes in and doesn't have this way of promoting connection and how they're interacting with their kids, maybe they've been on Zoom for 6 hours at work, and they come in, hey, you've been on that thing all day, then the kid can take that on. And, well, here, yet again, it's my fault.
Right.
That I'm lonely and disconnected, and if I don't have this as a distraction, this is a distraction to a lot of uncomfortable things for kids in some ways.
How can parents join in their kids' experience in these times?
Well, I think the first thing is not have your own device with you. In promoting a sense of connection, what children need the most is this. And a lot of times I think that we do this. A lot of times without even knowing it. So I think on the part of the parent, needs to be very intentional that we are making face-to-face contact. And I think that even if you're my kid and I'm frustrated that you've been on your iPad for most of the day and I haven't been able to get you off of it, whatever. I think wondering, being curious about that as a good starting point, being curious about it would sound something like, hey, what were you playing on your iPad today? Just starting a conversation with, hey, what were you up to today? Did it seem like I was kind of, busy on my Zoom calls for work? Or, I think starting with the kid's perspective first and really truly listening and being available.
Right.
Setting the emotional atmosphere of the home, setting your preferred emotional tone.
Sure.
Make it one of connection, one of, hey, I'm here.
Right.
Where you're kind of open. When we get frustrated, when we get, I've told you 10 times, it throws us into defense.
Right.
Their minds automatically sense threat from that.
Right.
And I think eye contact's important.
Right.
Having good eye contact that says, hey, I'm here, I'm paying attention, I'm noticing. Hey, it looks like you're really having fun doing that.
So that leads me to question then about, are parents focusing on the content or the context of their child? Parents focus on what their child doing and outside of how they are experiencing what they're doing.
I'm thinking this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Who knows how long, COVID's going to last, how long we're going to be doing these things, whether our kids are doing hybrid school, at home school, in school.
Right.
But something that you and I have talked about that we've noticed in our parent meetings is that it's also provided some really nice opportunities for parents to practice being with their kids and connecting with their kids differently that I think we can build on after we go back to, life as usual. Or while the challenges are difficult, the opportunities for connecting and things that we can do after all this is over, I think, are pretty great.
Right, because our brains are seeking it. So.
If you have more questions or would like more information on this topic and more, please visit our website at www.kidstlc.org.